Well, welcome everyone to the second virtual town hall for Barrie School. We're very excited to be able to continue this conversation about topics that I know all of us are really concerned about and have been thinking about. And I just want to say that we're going to be sharing with you the answers as best as we can. There are some questions that will have complete answers, and other questions we'll simply be able to share with you what we know now and the best of our planning. I do want to say up front that this session will be recorded, and we plan to share the recording with our community next week. If you do not want your image to be included on the recording, please turn off your camera. That said, it's very helpful to members of the community to see people's faces during the town hall. So please enable your video if you are comfortable doing so. All participants will be kept on mute throughout the session to reduce background noise. Since many of the parents' questions overlap, we have organized the questions by theme. We have synthesized similar questions together and broadened the age level nature of some of the questions so that the answers are applicable across grades. During the last 10 to 15 minutes of the town hall meeting, we will answer additional questions during this live session. During the questions that were submitted in advance have been condensed into 22 questions. That sounds like a lot, but I think that we'll be able to stay focused and get all the way through them so that in the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be able to answer additional questions that you will be able to submit today. You can submit your questions through the Zoom chat feature, and these questions will be sent directly to Hillary Green. If more questions are submitted than we have time to answer, Hillary will do her best to select questions on topics not yet covered or to let the parent know that a faculty or staff member will reach out and answer the question in a week following the town hall. And so with that, we are going to move on to our sessions. You can see the agenda, and we are right on schedule. And again, I want to thank all of the parents who submitted questions in advance, because this really helps make sure that we're covering the issues that are of most interest to you. So in this first section, we will be dealing with questions that cross the whole school. And so head of school John Kidder, with special guest appearance by Jennifer Protil, who is the Montessori Office of Child Care Specialist and Director of Extended Day from toddler to primary, will also be joining in. And so without further ado, we're just going to jump right in. So the first question goes to you, John. What are the different reopening scenarios that Barrie is considering for the start of the school year? And what is the likelihood of each scenario happening? So look into your crystal ball and let's hear what's going on.
I think we're all fully confident that everyone knows what's going to happen in the future. In all seriousness, at the last town hall, we discussed 4 of the most likely outcomes. The first one is the worst case one, where schools everywhere could stay closed for much of the fall. In this situation, education at Barrie would continue online and ideally improve based on everything we've learned this spring. However, even in this worst case scenario, toddler and primary students may be able to be on campus earlier than everybody else, and we'll be getting into this shortly. One of the reasons Jennifer is making a guest appearance. The second scenario is where schools begin online in late August and then open a little later on campus with new health guidelines, and we'll be discussing those tonight. The third one is where schools open on time with the new guidelines and then have to close because of a periodic outbreak before reopening again. And the fourth one is the one we're all hoping for, which is that we open on time and campuses remain open throughout the year with the new guidelines in place. I don't think anybody can accurately predict which of these scenarios is most likely. We're hoping for the best, and that's why we're planning for each of them.
Okay. Question number 2. With the information you have today, are you planning to have all the students back on campus every day at the beginning of the school year?
Yes. We are gearing up to open our campus as soon as we're permitted to do so by the state and county officials. Right now, we're planning to open Stepping Stones for toddlers and Camp for everybody else in 3.5 weeks, which is in the week of July 6th. Over the last 2 months, we have gathered faculty and staff into 5 distinct reopening task forces that have been meeting extensively to plan for every element of a return to campus. And in essence, we're having to reinvent every part of what it means to run a school. Each focused area was on things ranging from health, safety, and emotional wellness to academics, to campus operations, to summer programs. If you see some people looking tired, you'll know why.
So we've been following very closely what the planning is going on in Montgomery County schools. So if Montgomery County schools are not allowed to open in September due to large class sizes and the total population of each school, could Barrie still open its campus earlier due to its smaller size and spread out campus, et cetera?
Yeah, we really hope so. MoCo has large class sizes and other restrictions, and we hope that independent schools will be considered separately by local authorities. Our campus is large and our class sizes are much, much smaller. We will open as soon as we're permitted to do so by local authorities. More on this in a minute.
Okay, and here's where we get our guest appearance. Is there any possibility that toddler and primary programs could open earlier than the rest of the school under the Montgomery County Office of Child Care guidelines? Jennifer Protil will respond to this.
Jennifer is muted. Hillary, if you could unmute her, that would be great.
I'm working on it, sorry.
In the meantime, if everybody can give Jennifer some love with the cheers, she's been working extremely hard and has been graceful through the entire time of planning.
Okay, you're good.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. So the answer is yes. And we have good news. Last night, Governor Hogan announced that all child care centers and public summer school programs in the state are permitted to reopen. Currently, the county is about 1 to 2 weeks behind the state. So Montgomery County is 1 to 2 weeks behind the state. Of critical importance is that the group size has increased to 15, well within what is needed to run our summer program for toddlers, and a positive trajectory for our already small primary classes. To be clear, this also means that depending on which phase we are in at any point over the next year, our toddler through kindergarten students may be allowed to have classes at Barrie, even if 1st to 12th graders are not permitted to come onto school campuses in our region. This is a very encouraging sign, particularly to parents of our youngest students who have been particularly hard hit by balancing their own jobs alongside supporting distance learning for their little ones.
That's wonderful news, Jennifer.
Yes.
So the next question is, are you planning to have students of different grades be on campus on different days while others are learning at home, i.e. hybrid models that some public schools are considering? And if the campus is open, but parents are not comfortable sending their kids to school, will distance learning still be an option?
I think all of us have been really following this in earnest to find out what others are doing. Public schools are looking at this hybrid model because their class sizes are really large and their classrooms are often smaller. They may have no other way to keep students physically distant from one another. In one model being proposed, and there are a lot of them, half the students would come in on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then learn remotely on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then they flip the next week. We explored this model and feel, and I just want to be super open about this, that it should be avoided at all possible at our school. The experience, we believe, would be disjointed for the kids, and the rhythm and consistency, whether you're a toddler or a 12th grader, that is just so important for you to have a successful learning experience would be just really hard to achieve. Parents would also struggle to meet their own work schedules, much less what pickup would look like if half your kids are on campus and half aren't, especially with multiple kids in different grades. We also believe that this hybrid classroom model, with some kids in class while others tune in remotely, would be extremely challenging and frankly untenable for teachers to achieve the kind of high quality learning experience that we believe all kids should get. At Barrie, our priorities really are twofold, which is safety and educational excellence. Our campus is large, our class sizes are small, and we are fortunate to have 45 acres to spread out. So if public schools are closed or using a hybrid, and county executives give smaller schools a wider berth to hold fully in-person classes, we are absolutely going to take it. I want to be really clear that because we want to maintain a high quality program, when we reopen with students on campus, and I'm addressing the second part of the question here, it is highly unlikely that our teachers will be able to offer a simultaneous virtual learning experience for students whose families would prefer that they tune in from home on a screen while their fellow students are learning in a classroom. We understand that some people might be nervous about it, and I just want to be open that our teachers are amazing, but we need to be realistic about what is manageable for them. It is not fair to expect them to be in two places at once. However, as for remote learning for students with a documented case of COVID-19 in their family, our faculty and staff will do everything we can to partner with the family to keep that student moving forward in their core academic work. It probably wouldn't be live classes for toddler or primary or elementary necessarily with a computer, but if your family is experiencing an illness, we want to help you.
Okay. So how will the day-to-day structures of the school look different when you're open on campus? What steps will you be taking to reduce germ exposure between different divisions in the school?
I'm asking all the parents to buckle up because to be fully candid, school is going to look pretty different, not just at Barrie, but at every school around the country. Here are a couple examples of how it would look different on our campus. First, visitors will not be allowed on campus except under very special circumstances. Teachers will not be allowed to open the door of the car at drop-off, whether the student's a 12th grader or in 3rd grade. Parents will be able to walk their kids to a classroom, but they're going to need to say goodbye at the door. There are going to be a ton of things we're going to do that may feel hard, but are really designed for the public good. Second, we are organizing the school into distinct learning villages that will, by necessity, have little physical contact with each other so we can minimize germ exposure. For example, toddler and primary students won't be near each other, whether inside or outside. Lower elementary students and upper elementary students won't be near each other. Middle and high school students won't be able to do our Bigs and Little program with the younger kids. We're going to be doing these learning villages. We were jokingly calling them germ families, but I don't think that is the right way of thinking about it. So why the village model? We are being advised that when, not if, documented cases of COVID-19 are identified in very large public schools with many groupings of students and teachers interacting on a daily basis, like big population, everybody's interacting with each other, that when, not if, a case comes up, that entire school may be forced to shut down for weeks on end until the outbreak can be properly traced and contained. That kind of situation is not only extremely challenging for everybody, it's unsafe. So some schools don't have a choice. We do, and we're designing a system to be able to minimize that problem. The village model is designed to both minimize germ exposure for all children and all adults and maximize the opportunity for our campus to remain open. I want to be clear to all the parents out there. I got 2 kids at home. My wife does. It's hard having your kids at home all the time. And we want to make sure that our campus can stay open as much as possible next year. And I think the real benefit here is that our intentional small size as a school is helping us in this situation. Our middle and upper school will be one village because each of the faculty members is going to continue to teach kids across all those different grade levels. For this village, we will be enacting strict guidelines for in-class seating, how lunch is going to work, sanitizing spaces after classes, Your kid may be sanitizing their workspace after each class. The good news is that, our small class sizes and dispersed buildings in the middle and upper school are really helping us spread out. And that's as ideal an environment to do social distancing, even though social distancing is not ideal. And I want to be really clear that all of these changes are going to add up for our kids and for ourselves to feel really big. My wife went on campus a couple days ago and she cried. It's been hard to be away. It's been hard for kids, for parents, and for teachers. I hope we can keep an open mind about the importance of being flexible and adapting so that we can prioritize what matters most, which at the heart of it all is to maintain a safe, joyful, and rich academic experience. All the other changes really aren't going to feel so big if we can really hit those three things.
Okay. Well, the next question circles back a little bit to the conversations we were having at the first town hall meeting. And that is, what key insights on the rollout of distance learning did you learn from the parent surveys?
Yeah, I want to dive into this one because the answer is relatively short. Parents expressed near universal appreciation for our amazing teachers, all their dedication, and how quickly they rolled out a high-quality distance learning program. And the other key finding really isn't surprising, which is that the success and level of engagement of a student in online learning directly corresponds to how old they are. It was tough for our youngest students, and as kids got older, they were able to do quite well. A toddler and primary student's brain, for example, can only stay focused for limited periods of time. And parents of our youngest kids have to be with them nearly all day, and that childcare element has been a big thing. As students get older, especially from 4th grade to 12th grade, parents shared that their students generally made a successful transition and did remarkably well, all things considered. Everybody said they liked being on campus more. And as the kids got older, they were able to do pretty well.
Thank you. So I think the next question is one that a lot of people have been anticipating an answer to. And this is probably one of the top questions that you get. We understand there is no tuition refund and support this 100% as our teachers require this to maintain their salaries. However, for the youngest students who are less likely to be engaged in a full day of distance learning, has there been discussion of possible tuition reduction, especially given that Barrie's costs may be significantly lower if the campus is closed?
So this is the question. We did get the most submissions on this one. Hillary, would you mind unsharing your screen so I can share mine? Let's see here. Okay. If you can see my screen, please put your thumb up. I want to make sure. Okay, good. You may want to minimize the images of all the people in the upper right-hand corner by clicking on one of those boxes because there are a number of slides and I want you to be able to see all the words. All right. I'm going to do that as well. Okay, so I want to talk about the answer to this question, and I'm going to give a little bit of a detailed answer, and I will likely be making some people upset and some people very happy. And there's an expression of no good deed goes unpunished. So I want to just be really open here that after this meeting, if you are upset by this, I will give you Janet Rutledge's cell phone number. And if you're happy, I'll give you mine. So I want to explore the tuition refund challenge directly. And the answers we're going to be exploring may surprise some of you. A bunch of people basically had a version of saying this: I love Barrie, but tuition may not be worth it if the campus is closed for much of the school year and I have to watch my young kid all day and I have to do my job. I love my kid, but it's tough. So there were some dilemmas as we explored an answer for this. And I want to also say, as Janet will confirm, we've been working on an answer to this question for 2 months. Here are the dilemmas. This challenge is real, especially for families of our youngest kids. There is a lot of people that would understandably feel that our costs would go down because we don't have utilities, we don't have to mow the lawn as much, and so forth. And those did save us a little bit of money, but in the reality, in planning for multiple scenarios at the same time in a pandemic like this, our costs have gone up on a scale of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is medical equipment, which is hard to get and expensive, significant professional development. We've had and will need to buy additional learning materials so that students can have access to them, both in the class, in art, at home. Our technology expenses are understandably going up, and we're going to be paying for additional janitorial support so when our campus is open, your kid can be safe. The other dilemma is really about the critical need to support our faculty and staff, and they have made a life calling. It is their mission in life to be of service to people, but that doesn't mean that they should take a voluntary vow of poverty. And the impact of COVID-19 has really hit all of us. And as we're supporting families, we really need to make sure that we're supporting our teachers and staff. So those are dilemmas, and they're kind of in competition with each other. And what we want to talk about is what we think is a balanced solution. So our values as a school as it relates to tuition are really threefold. We want to make the most of every dollar families pay for tuition. As you know, independent school tuition in the country has been going up at a rate between 4 to 6% over the last 10 years. We think that's fundamentally unsustainable. Over the last 3 years, our tuition increases have been in the range of 1 to 2%. And we did this especially again this year because we were expecting the possibility of a recession. None of us thought that this would be the situation that we have. So that ended up being a good choice, but for reasons we couldn't have expected. The other element of our tuition as a value is generational equity. And I want to be super clear, and I don't mean to make the parents of our youngest students upset here, that our middle and high school families have experienced the smallest percentage increases and the smallest dollar increases over the last 3 years comparatively. And we've been able to absorb a number of the costs that they used to have to pay out of pocket, like books and materials and so forth. And we've been doing that for a bunch of different reasons. At the same time, right now, the families of our youngest students have had a disproportionate effect of COVID-19 for really 2 reasons. One is because their kids can't learn as much as older kids because of their brain development and screen time. And the second is that there's a childcare element that's very real for families. And as we're trying to figure this out, those values, all 3 of those values have been at the center of the conversation. Okay, so as we continue to explore this, we began to model different ways we might structure a tuition refund. Here are the parameters. I want to be absolutely clear that in the event of a refund, and we're closed, the campus is closed, school remains open, and that distance learning would absolutely continue, refund or no refund. We wanted to be able to create something that was fair, simple, and straightforward to implement. We also wanted to be progressive, and that's the difference between equity and equality. In equity, we help the most the people who have been impacted the most. And so what you're about to see is a model where our toddler families will receive the largest refund, and that it will tier as kids get older, heading up towards 5th grade. I also want to be really clear, we will not be offering tuition refunds for our middle and upper school students, partly because of the tuition has been smallest over time, and partly because we needed to make a determination of where to cut that off. And we felt that that was the most equitable thing. And I want to be clear that some people may have disagreed about that, but I want to be honest about what it is. And we wanted to find something that was balancing between the needs of our families and the needs of our teachers. So let's dive into it. Today is Thursday, the 11th. On a Monday, June 1st, which was a week ago Monday, the board met for 3.5 hours, and the board was able to approve a tuition refund scenario for all of our Montessori families. It's designed to have a simple tiered percentage off per day we are closed for COVID-19. It doesn't apply to snow days, and I'll get into that in a minute. Any day that we are closed for COVID-19, it will be connected to that. And the largest ones go to the students who are the youngest, which is the progressive part. Okay. Here's how this is going to work. 30% of the entire year will be covered. I want to be really candid. We cannot afford to do anything longer than 30%. None of us know what it's going to look like next year, but if a family is concerned that there is going to be a large percentage of the year which will be remote, we encourage you to contact Doer, the tuition insurance company, and then they can work with you directly. What does 30% mean? That is 52 days of 172 day school year, you know what I mean, which is a little bit over 10 weeks. So in this situation, from age 1 to 5th grade, there would be a refund for up to 10 weeks of missed school, which corresponds ballpark to what we experienced this spring, which was a substantial closure. Now, here's where it's different in the progressive model. I want everybody to take a look at that. If your kid will be in 4th and 5th grade next year, for any day that we are closed for COVID-19, you would get a 20% refund. 25% for 1st to 3rd. If your kid is in primary like mine, you would get a 40% refund for each day up to 30% of the year. If your kid is a toddler, for the first 10 weeks we're closed, you would get a 50% refund on your tuition. I would anticipate this was a lot more than many people were expecting. Some may have been hoping for more than that, but we were trying to balance a number of things. This is real money. My mother was a secretary. She worked 2 jobs to send me to an independent school. She would be shocked at the numbers that I'm seeing here. But I just want to be transparent that we wish we could do more. We wish we could do more for middle and upper school. I would like Barrie to be free, but a quality education costs money so that we can pay our teachers. And the impact of what we're doing here, which we believe fundamentally is the right thing, is very real for our school as it connects to our stewardship of our teachers. So how will this work? I want to be really clear. Virtual learning is way harder on the teachers than being at school. They are already in this last spring working 10, 15 hours on the weekends to prepare. They need that Monday off. It's not off, but to plan, to meet with each other and to do individual conferencing with families. So anytime we're virtual, we'll do it the same way. Mondays would be their day to be able to do additional work. So in that situation, we wouldn't hold regular classes on Mondays if we're virtual, just like we did this spring. If the school is closed for 2 weeks or less over the entire year cumulatively, 3 days here, 2 days here, we wouldn't be offering refunds for those first 2 weeks because the impact would be quite small. On the 11th cumulative day, meaning the beginning of the 3rd week, that's when refunds would start to be calculated. They don't have to be consecutive, cumulative. That's good for parents. The way that will work is it's applied to the net tuition. If a family is receiving financial aid, they would get a refund based on the percentage of the gross tuition that they pay. Same percentage for everybody. This is important. We need to make sure that Han and Ashley and John Grabowski in the business office want to come to work each day. And so they can't refund these things on a weekly basis. It will be calculated as a tuition credit for each trimester to pay down what a family still owes on their tuition. If a person pays all of it at front, which is always encouraged, then they would get their money back on a trimester basis. And that's simply so that we can implement it. Okay, so let's talk briefly about snow days. If we're open and we'd otherwise have regular classes and a snowstorm hits and Montgomery County says it's a snow day, it's not safe to travel, then it's the same way it's always been. We follow our established procedures. We're not going to hold virtual classes because we don't have much time to prepare for that. Kids can go outside and play. Okay, that is the nature of living in this part of the country. If you grew up in LA like me, it hasn't snowed since 1945. Beginning on the third consecutive day, just as in the past, if we have an extended snow business, then we would start virtual classes there so teachers have a chance to plan. I want to be clear that if it's a snow day and it's not related to COVID-19, we're not going to count those towards the refunds. However, part of the common sense approach to snow days is that if we are virtual and then we have a snow day and we're already immersed in distance learning, sorry kids, it's not a day off. Traveling isn't a problem because it's not unsafe to go from your kitchen to your office or whatever. And we're going to do it like we normally do, and that absolutely would count. So we're trying to make sure that we have a common sense there. So quick next steps. I just want to convey that I believe that our faculty and staff and our board of trustees are taking extraordinary steps to support our families. And that it is important and crucial that families continue to pay their tuition on time, including this month's June payment. We still need to be paying teachers to be able to prepare for the work. We have professional development grants that are happening as we speak. $50,000 worth of them so our teachers can be extra prepared for this upcoming year. I will be making my June payment on time. I expect you to do it as well. As we've communicated, we've moved the withdrawal deadline so parents can have a lot more time to plan and see how this all has unfolded. If at some point something major happens and you decide to withdraw before July 15th, you'd get your June payment back minus the deposit. And we'll be sharing all this details so you don't have to memorize everything in this PowerPoint in the next week. Lastly, we'll be doing some virtual orientations in August, which we'll get into, so that the coming back to campus will be really clear. Janet, I think I'm ready for the next question.
Okay, so if we can move back to that. All right, we are just a little bit behind schedule, but I'm sure we'll be able to make that up. And so then, as people are taking all that in, we're going to switch to something that's a lot easier to answer. So assuming that we're back on campus and everything is running smoothly, will regular Barrie bus transportation be available? And if so, how will this work?
Yeah, so it's nice to answer a straightforward question. Buses are simpler than tuition. So we're working closely with our bus company to meet the social distancing requirements on buses and to ensure they're clean and they're sanitized after every use. We expect the rules for buses to change over the course of time as new data comes out. And the current guidelines are pretty straightforward, which is in essence, one kid per row, and then a row between that kid and the next kid. If they're siblings, they can sit next to each other. And then on the opposite side of the bus, they have to sit in a staggered way. So it really reduces the bus capacity, but it's designed to keep everybody safe. Space will be limited, and our goal is to work with families to make next year possible for bus transportation. If you have questions, just reach out to Han Nguyen, our CFO, with specific questions. And I jokingly said I would hand out her cell phone number. I'm not going to do that.
And we hope that by September, some of these rules will be relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to part 2, which is on health, safety, and wellness. And these will be answered by our nurse, Kirsty Abernathy. And our first question is, what safety procedures will you be putting in place to ensure the health and well-being of students and adults once campus reopens?
Thank you, Janet. I know that this is a hot topic for all of us as we are planning for reopening in the fall. And I want to just make it clear that the information that we have now is based on what's currently out there in terms of guidelines. There has not been a guidance specifically from the state and local authorities as to what things will look like in August or September. So just know that the plan that I'm sharing with you is subject to change, and we will be sure to communicate those changes and updates with you throughout the summer. But certainly we want to let you know that we have a plan, and that the planning that we're doing, we are making sure that we have all the supplies needed and everything like that, and that our guidance so far is coming from, of course, the CDC, the World Health Organization, the Maryland Department of Health, also the Maryland Department of Education, in conjunction with the Office of Child Care, because we do have younger students on our campus that we have to abide by those regulations, in addition to the Montgomery County Department of Health. Because as you know, with the phases, it's important that we also consult with them about our local jurisdiction. In addition to those health agencies, we have also received guidance from national and regional school associations, in addition to the National Nurses Association that I am affiliated with. And I've been fortunate to be on a network of international nurses in which they have shared their wisdom with how they have actually reopened. So that has been very helpful in helping with planning for our school. So this is a quick schematic about what we are doing at Barrie to enhance our health and safety procedures. And I will touch on these in the questions to follow, but just a quick rundown: temperature checks. So this may not be something that we have to continue with throughout the entire school year, but certainly we are prepared to do temperature checks upon arrival using our non-contact thermometers. Also health screening questionnaires. This is for students, visitors, parents who may need to come to campus, and essential visitors as well, and staff as well. And what this is a COVID-19 screening form to ensure that those that are coming onto campus do not have symptoms of COVID-19, and if so, would prompt them to stay home, and I would follow up with them, or to be clear to come to campus. And I will touch on this a little bit later. Masks. So this is a big question among all schools and all school nurses. I've been on several webinars about this. For now, staff and students will be required to wear a mask or face covering. I will get into the specifics about ages and when it would be appropriate for certain ages to wear them, and how we will navigate wearing of masks for all of our students. Social distancing. Of course, John alluded to our learning villages and how we will go about distancing our students, whether it be modification of classroom spaces, using our outdoor campus areas, signage. So you'll see lots of signs and markings on the sidewalks, letting you know the 6 feet of distance, and then also modifications to our pickup and drop-offs. The next thing that we are enhancing is frequent hand washing. We already do this, but we're just going to continue to encourage our students and staff. I put Purell in, Purell out. It's something that in the hospital we used to do a lot of, and it's the thought that hand hygiene when you enter a building or classroom, as well as when you exit. So that will be something that we will be teaching and educating students and staff on. And then the teachers to assist the younger ones with hand washing, which they already do, but just to continue that, that practice. All right.
Thank you.
I think the last little bit was enhanced cleaning and disinfecting. And I will touch on this in a moment, but cleaning throughout the day will be important for classrooms and the materials that are used by students. And then implementing a midday and nightly professional cleaning to help with those common areas.
Thank you. The next couple of questions overlap a little bit with the information that you've shared, but also give the opportunity to dive a little bit deeper on some of the items. And we are a little bit behind schedule, but this is really important, so we need to take the time to answer them. We know that health procedures and rules from the state and county will likely change between now and when school opens. That said, at this time, are you actively planning to conduct temperature checks of students when they come on campus? And what temperature would require a student to be sent home when they come to school?
Sure. So based on our current guidelines, we are planning to conduct temperature checks, and we're going to use the non-contact thermometers. And our IT team has actually put together or created an app to record these temperatures, so that I'm not going through, pages and pages of students' temperatures. So it would be recorded right away, and I would get an alert if there was a temperature over 100 degrees. So that is what you have to remember. That is considered a temperature in which a student or staff member would need to be sent home, and then they would need to remain fever-free for at least 24 hours without medication in order for them to return to school.
Okay. And we keep hearing about cleaning. So what kind of cleaning procedures will you be putting in place during the school day?
Excellent question. So I mentioned the cleaning and disinfecting of materials and classroom spaces that students may share. So we have ordered lots of gloves, disinfectant wipes, as well as the spray to be used during the school day. So if children are working with materials that then need to be cleaned before someone else can use it, the teacher has that readily available. For our older students who can assist with cleaning in the middle and upper school, certainly they will have gloves that they can use to wipe down their own areas, kind of like if you go to the gym and you wipe down your equipment after use, so that everybody within the community is helping to keep our areas clean throughout the day. Also, we are going to have a janitorial service to come through midday to clean those areas, the larger common areas, whether it be tabletops in the commons, the bathrooms, just to check to make sure that those areas are clean at least once throughout the day, and then they do another cleaning in the evening or during the night.
Okay. So in the earlier part of our session, John talked about the various villages. So let's get into some specifics about how social distancing will work school-wide.
Okay, so school-wide, just the physical layout of the campus will look a little bit different with the distancing with car pickup and drop-offs. There are going to be stickers different places. One of the biggest things will be that parents will need to remain outside of the building or classroom space, to say goodbye to children. So that will be a big change. Also, there will be specific entry and exit points to decrease the intermingling of students within like the commons area. So, and all of that will be laid out and shared with students and parents as to those procedures. As far as classrooms, the physical distancing, of course, is a challenge, but we're working on that. And so ideally, we will use some of our outdoor spaces so that we can maximize that space to be able to safely distance students. Also, cross-divisional intermixing or intermingling will not occur, like John alluded to. So that will be restricted because the most important thing that we want to be able to do is to contact trace in a way that I can call the health department, and if and when there's a case, to say, this is where this student was, they were only within this classroom and they only use these bathrooms, so that we're not closing down our entire campus for a case, but rather able to isolate that case and then proceed accordingly. And then the visiting. So visitors, we will be restricting that to essential visitors. So if a vendor needs to come on campus, they have to complete a screening form, they have to have a temperature check, all of those things in order to keep our students and our staff safe and healthy. So that's on a broad scale. And with our toddler and primary students, we know that they're younger and social distancing is almost impossible at times because they require care and attention and to be touched and to be assisted with a lot of their daily activities. So with that being said, the smaller group sizes and the use of the outdoor spaces will help to adequately physically distance them, knowing that at any given moment we will have to, teachers will have to assist them. Also, avoiding the intermingling of classes between those toddler groups. So I know a lot of times they would have specials and they would maybe play on the playgrounds together. So we're not going to be, classes will stay within their group, their toddler groups. And then in the classroom, arranging the furniture and the materials so that they're not working so closely together, and making sure they have adequate number of materials so that students aren't having to share them as much and things like that. And then for nap time, we have to be creative about the way that we place their cots, and in a head to toe fashion to decrease any viral droplets or anything like that, because that is a time that they would not be wearing masks. So.
Okay, I know that there's a lot of information to cover, but we're getting really behind now, so we're going to try to speed it up just a little bit.
Sure.
The next question is, which students from which ages will you require to wear a mask, and would you even attempt wearing or social distancing for the youngest students?
Okay, I'll make this quick and easy. So the broad answer is, at Barrie, we will have students and staff wear a mask. Students under 2, no mask for safety reasons. Students between 2 years and 5 years old, it's strongly encouraged. So parents will need to send a mask with them, and we would do our very best to have them wear it at appropriate times. And then for students ages 5 and above, they will be expected to wear their masks in the classroom during the day when they cannot be, when 6 feet of distance may not be able to be maintained. And then I will send out specifics about when masks can be taken off, and this may change. It may be that they say, no, there are no masks that need to be worn by students, but right now I know camps are requiring it for certain ages, as well as some childcare centers.
Okay, and then the final question should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
What personal protective gear will students be expected to bring with them to school each day?
This would just be a mask. So depending on what our guidelines are when we reopen, right now I only foresee they would need a mask. Younger students or a face covering. Younger students, you may want to, but other than that, that would be the only thing that would be required for them to bring. And I will have extras if it gets lost, damaged, or soiled during the day.
And that never happens with kids, right?
Never.
Janet, if I could just say, if we could give an appreciation, Kirsty's the hardest working school nurse I've ever seen. And she needs a mask because she's kind of a superhero in all sincerity. As a current parent, I am so heartened to have somebody who's a pediatric trained nurse supporting all of our kids. So if we can give her a little round of applause for all of her work, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay, and now it's time for part 3. We are running a little bit behind, but so far there are no additional questions, so we won't have to give the sad news that we're out of time for the extra questions. This section will be answered by interim head of school Lillian Mullane and head of the middle and upper school Kristen Arndt. So our first question for this section is, I imagine your teachers will be preparing for both on-campus learning and distance learning. Can you tell us your planning for each so that the experience is engaging for all students under both circumstances?
For lower school, teachers are creating a distance learning curricula, and our goal is to more closely align with the multi-age grouping, the subject content, the self-pacing, and the individualized instruction that daily occurs on campus. They're also taking summer courses and workshops to deepen their understanding, not only of the structure, but the impact of distance learning on our very young students, so that we can support not only the academic needs of the children, but their social and emotional well-being as well. And we are redesigning our peace and social justice curriculum at each developmental level in which to safely explore and understand the recent events.
And good evening, everybody. In the middle and upper school, we've collected data through surveys to teachers, students, parents, parent focus groups, teacher observations. The results have driven our efforts. Our teachers have been engaging in faculty-led and outside PD professional development about how to best use synchronous and asynchronous activities in designing learning. We've reflected on and then shared these best practices. The school is also providing a lot of summer professional development, paying for both teacher coaching and for outside courses to drive engagement, to increase engagement in our classes. Our new wellness team, which is chaired by Dr. Natasha Spate, and teaching and learning teams will also drive programming for our students. Should we be in distance learning, we've altered our schedule that will, because we really did listen to what both students were saying, teachers were saying, and some parents were saying, to find that real sweet spot for Zoom. So we've pretty much shortened the synchronous, which means the Zoom part of class, to 45 minutes or less each, with 15-minute breaks between classes. That will happen in the morning, thus leaving the afternoon for athletics, for wellness, for student life, for other pieces, in addition to the asynchronous parts of our classwork, which is homework and other things students will engage in independently or in groups. We are including middle school athletics in both models, and we're really excited about these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so given likely COVID-19 restrictions and need for social distancing, can you talk about the steps teachers are planning to put in place so the teaching is authentic to your philosophy as a Montessori and project-based learning school?
For us,
there's a follow-on question that I'll put out there just so you're thinking about it. And how are you planning to integrate the experiences of new students who are used to these methods alongside students who are new to Barrie?
As a long-term Montessorian, definitely this question speaks to my heart. In all ways possible, we will hold to core principles of Montessori pedagogy. We're committed to maintaining multi-age groupings on campus and in all our future distance learning sessions. There will be tighter freedom within limits guidelines, but always with as much spontaneous activity and freedom of choice and movement as we can provide safely within the small student groupings. We're revising the daily uninterrupted 3-hour work cycle to intersperse refreshing outdoor experiences, and we're adjusting specialist class locations and schedules to limit germ exposure. Unfortunately, we've had to cancel Chinese and lower elementary Spanish classes due to the lack of foreign language teachers, but we are able then to recoup core instructional time. To orient new students, teachers will always first look at what knowledge each student brings into school. By their active model and responsibility to share what they know, we rely on our returning students to graciously help new ones orient to new lessons, new routines, and new ground rules. And we want to increase your knowledge of Montessori pedagogy and terminology so that you can feel confident supporting your child's Montessori learning at home.
You know, so much of what Lillian just said also applies to the middle and upper school, meeting students where they're at, freedom within limits, those types of things as we look at the fall. You know, we continue to be committed to building curriculum around interesting problems that children will solve and larger issues affecting the world, so that students can drive their own learning and increasing their own engagement. We get new students every year, and our teachers are well-versed in bringing students along, as are our students. Our focus on group work, although it might look different in our socially distanced model, we still will have collaboration, and we're learning all so much learning around the kinds of technology tools that can make this possible. But students help other students who come on and are part of that welcoming. And every year and every level, we get new students. We have a strong history pre-pandemic of using Google for virtual collaboration, for instance. And since the pandemic has happened, we've become versed in many other technologies that our faculty have been thriving with. So thank you.
So this next question really dovetails nicely with the previous question. If the school year begins with distance learning, what are you putting in place to orient incoming students? You moved the slide. What are you putting in place to orient incoming students, and how will they meet and interact with each other, interact with other students, and with teachers for the first time? And then specifically, so can my daughter meet with her teacher virtually prior to school starting at the end of August?
In lower school, our children usually visit the next level up classroom, and they were kind of robbed of that experience with the distance learning. But today, I can actually say that all of our current teachers have posted out this week to all the moving up students a video introduction to the next set of teachers and a short tour of a classroom. After classroom placement letters have been sent to parents in July, teachers will also offer virtual sort of meet and greet home visits for all their new students and parents. On-campus arrival and dismissal procedures will definitely look different in compliance with current, at the time, health and safety regulations. And so we'll offer virtual training and additional details in August for parents so they know what to do and children feel comfortable. If you will be able to then practice and let them know some of what they'll need to do to come on campus. And greetings and separation will occur outside the classroom door. So teachers will very much collaborate with parents on how to comfortably ease separation anxiety in our young students.
In the middle and upper school, we're planning a virtual orientation, both for students and families, should we be in a socially distanced model, and an in-person orientation so that students can meet Barrie faculty and staff and their peers. Of course, we will send out very clear and detailed information related to health and safety and any changes in procedures before the in-person orientation so that those procedures are clear before we even set foot on campus.
Then even more specific, in light of the restrictions that may be imposed by the state and county, I'm interested in the outlook and planning for sports, theater, service hours, and other extracurriculars for middle and upper school students.
Again, in lower school, our lower elementary Echo Hill on-campus program that we usually have in the fall will not take place this fall, nor will there be any fall field trips. However, contingency reservations have already been made to continue our spring field trips and our overnights.
And given the health and safety guidelines for reopening is changing by the month, we are following closely all of these guidelines because they have such an impact on the things this question asker asked about. Athletics Director Seth Lieberman is working with our league to determine which athletics will be possible, possibly soccer and cross country, and which the league may not allow, which involves touching and throwing of any balls such as flag football. The training room will be staffed and opened by appointment after school for upper school students as well. Middle school athletics will occur whether we're on campus or off, and if we are in school or distance learning. Games, however, related to athletics may not happen if we are not allowed to mix with outside teams from other schools. I really do have to commend Seth Lieberman on his creativity and expect to hear a lot more about that in the weeks leading up to school. Service hours will likely be re-envisioned. We are working hard to find opportunities for safe service for students, but the expectation that we had pre-pandemic about the hours required for graduation will have to be flexible. We expect Model United Nations to still occur. Theater. We are working closely with Cedric Lyles and the theater department, the arts department in general, about what these distancing measures mean for our arts classes. We do not have an answer yet about the musical or the play, but no, we are working hard so that students will have the opportunity to work on those skills, but we need to figure out, like as with the rest of the theater community, how we do that at this time. And then finally, extended study week. We will take stock in October of extended study week planning, but realistically, we will most likely run a slate of local programs that don't involve air travel or overnight staying in other places. And that, again, will be dictated by the health and safety procedures and the general health of our country in different areas.
Well, we'll keep watching for that. The next question is mostly geared toward Lillian, and that is, in the event that distance learning will continue, will the school be providing manipulative materials that are difficult to print out for home use, such as pink tower, number rods, brown stair, that require the actual wooden item, or will parents be required to purchase these?
I have to say that you were all incredible troopers, cutting out and pasting and all sorts of things that we really asked you to do this first trimester at home. But in the future, more durable Montessori materials will be made available at no extra charge to each student, so that the most essential materials will last through a semester or a year-long at-home use. To minimize germ exposure, though, we do not envision having a lending library of Montessori materials. Our current plan, and especially for the younger children, but all the way through upper elementary, our current plan is to have teachers make materials over the summer through our paid faculty summer grants, but also to have students themselves in class make their own cache of at-home materials, as simple as a bead stair, with a new twist on practical life, small motor activity.
Okay. So in light of recent events, can Barrie please offer an age-appropriate list of books to foster meaningful conversations about race, diversity, equity, and justice that can be read at home? Mm-hmm. And this is from toddlers to teens. We all need to talk.
Mm-hmm. I'll answer this for the school. Our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Mati Wofford, and our librarian, Tracy Eaton, have collaborated on a list of resources that are on our school's diversity page online, barri.org. These will help you have meaningful conversations that guide children, as well as age-leveled reading books for students. We will include these links and more information in mine and Lillian's mid-June newsletters that go out to families. Montessori, I know they're looking to incorporate more current events discussions into their Montessori peace and social justice curricula. Students and families in the middle and upper school can also reach out to our Dean of Students, Tony Myers, and their humanities teachers for more ideas and references and resources. We have also been engaged with smaller groups, such as our Black Student Union, about activism.
Okay. And now we come to the final question of the ones that were submitted in advance. And I see that so far we have one comment and one question that have come up in the chat that will be answered in the following section. So this question says, it has to do with summer assignments. I imagine it would be nice to have summer work expected of the students to help parents encourage kids to stay engaged. And I also imagine that many students are burned out and need a summer break, given the challenges of virtual learning this past spring. Balancing these two concerns, can you talk about your plans for the summer work across different grade levels?
In lower school, summer packets were distributed to students in toddler 2 through 4th grade at our June 8th drive-through goodbye. In lower elementary, however, a late arriving language workbook will be delivered to students' homes this week. And any assignments are really due at the start of the school year. And we hope that this will allow individual families to take a nice long break before taking on these annual summer tasks.
All the work for middle and upper school students is online under academics and then Barrie Prep. And we will be including that link directly in our mid-June newsletters. We believe you should give your children a break if they need it, of course. Starting in and then starting maybe in mid or late July, or in some cases August, pick up the summer work, depending on how quickly and how motivated your children work. The work is not intended to take all summer, and if your child or family is overwhelmed, reach out to us by mid-July so that we can put you in conversation with the teacher of that class.
And if their students come to you and say, we have nothing to do,
oh, we have plenty. If that is your case, feel free. There are many reading lists that we can send your way. But we have found that engaging for when students are involved in reading and writing and doing some math over the summer, it does help them in the fall start a bit more smoothly. Thank you.
okay. Well, I want to thank you for getting through that long list of questions. And we're now going to pivot to questions that came in today, and I see more are coming in. So we'll start with the first one because it's a comment. And the person said, not sure if this is the most appropriate time, but I would love to send a huge thank you out to Barrie for giving their seniors a really heartfelt and memorial graduation. It was so in line with Barrie and their sincere dedication to each and every student. With much love, I thank you. So I was able to watch it, and I have to say, it was really a lovely ceremony. And the students, their speeches were just incredible. So thank you all.
Jan, if I could say, the comments are anonymous, and I want to thank Ingrid Kleckner for that comment that she just submitted.
Okay. And Trinity did a fabulous job, Ingrid.
As did all of the graduates.
Okay, this next question goes to Kirsty, and Lillian and Kristen will chime in as needed. And the question is, what about the safety of our teachers? What will happen if a teacher gets sick? That would be absolutely awful and could be extremely emotionally detrimental to a child. I love all of the teachers I have come in contact with at Barrie and care and worry about their safety as well. Can we have classroom discussions on how we will continue to distance ourselves in our personal life so that we can reduce COVID-19 and schools can stay open for our children? Wonderful question.
Yes, and thank you for that question. So actually, we had a very informative session with our staff today about not only HR concerns, but concerns about their safety and wellness as well in terms of returning to schools. So as a school community, we're going to do everything we can to keep our staff safe, which is why, you know, some of the guidelines seem like they can be quite strict and difficult in having to implement with children. But we do also have to consider our staff who will be working one-on-one with our children. So in that sense, we are thinking of them, and then as well as their own health. So they will also fill out a screening form. So if they're not feeling well, if they're sick, those types of things, I will be in close contact with them. And then as far as our personal lives, we also talked about travel and what that would mean, and how we can make sure that we're being responsible outside of our school, because coming to school within our community, we know that things can spread and things like that. So we are, we're talking about those things, and we are concerned about the safety of our staff as well.
Okay, does anyone need to add anything to that? We're almost at time, so hopefully we can get to a few more questions.
I can chime in that in Montessori, we definitely have grace and courtesy discussions all the time, and they will take on a really strong focus this year in what we can do to protect each other and do it in a respectful way and a caring way.
Yeah. And just to follow in on that, I mean, all of these procedures, they're new, and we are absolutely understand that children will need some time to get used to them and to understand the why behind them. I expect to partner with Kirsty to make all of this information as transparent as possible for our middle and upper school students. And just in general, also a note on this is that we're also are training for our substitute teachers. Any substitute teacher who comes on board for the middle and upper school will go through a rigorous training with all of our health and safety procedures.
Okay, so this is hopefully a quick question. Will Barrie still offer extended day in the fall if COVID-19 is still in existence? John?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was
You're
fast. The next one is also for Kirsty. And the question is, I love that Barrie is considering, I love all that Barrie is considering in regards to COVID. However, what is Barrie's plan for addressing co-infections and viruses that are impacting children that may be linked to the pandemic?
Excellent question. So as you know, the flu season will come around, and flu, cold, allergies. So as the school nurse, I will be screening for all of those things and isolating children who have any symptoms and referring them to healthcare providers for testing for whatever it may be, because in a time where COVID-19 is also going around, it's hard to differentiate those symptoms. So I will be erring on the side of caution and referring out accordingly for any type of viral illness that may be going on.
Okay. The next question is for John. The question is, will the equestrian program change for any of the age groups when keeping in mind social distancing?
It's a great question. Beryl can answer that in more detail, and we could put that in a later communication. I think the short answer is that we may very well not be able to do equestrian for toddlers because you have to have somebody holding the kid and somebody leading the horse, and 3 people in a small area makes social distancing difficult. For students who are doing the full riding program, we have a number of things in place to be able to do so very safely, and we'll be communicating out the details of that.
Okay. The next one is also for John. Is there an option for a January start should families opt not to send children, particularly toddler and primary students?
So there's always been
not sending them for fall.
Yeah, there has always been an option for the January start for toddlers, if and any students, if there's room. I just want to be really transparent. There is very unlikely to be room in the Toddler 1 and the Toddler 2 program for a number of reasons. One is that many child care centers in the region are closing and not reopening for financial reasons. So space is going to be limited. And the second thing is that with the tuition refund plan that we have in place, I think a number of families who might have otherwise withdrawn because it wasn't going to be worth it are not going to do that. So I do not anticipate having room in January, and I want to be really open about that with families.
Okay. And then we have one final question and then a comment. This next question is for Lillian, and this is about lunch and snack process for toddlers. And so they want to know, will there be any changes to the process? This is a new Toddler 2 family, and they're not familiar with the process as it is now.
Okay, so I'm going to also call Jennifer Protail to sort of tail off on me. Lunch is definitely going to look a little bit different. Our children do bring lunch from home in lunch boxes, and we are required to store them in refrigerators. That won't change, except that we have to have special distancing in the refrigerators for the lunch boxes. And currently, we're not allowed to use the microwave to reheat food. That may change, but right now we're looking to ask parents to be sure that they either use a warm thermos. We're not allowed to use ice packs, and that's why we have to use the refrigerators. But that will change. And our snack program, where typically the children bring in a piece of fruit for a communal fruit salad sometime in the day. We're not able to do that because we can't accept the food from home. And so for our snack in fruit salad, we will be providing that from school.
Okay.
The only thing I can add is that the morning snack will be individually served. So there won't be a communal, they will not serve themselves. They'll have their own container, take their snack that we provide, and it will be individual.
And this is something that I'm sure everyone is keeping a close eye on because these procedures are changing every day. Well, the final comment is a thank you to Barrie for being so incredible. Your dedication to the students and families is unbelievable. And I have to add that I agree with that completely. And on that note, I want to give all of the panelists a wonderful round of applause or a virtual waving of the hands.
And again, thank you for those anonymous comments, and Elise, thank you for that nice comment at the very end. That was quite well done. I just want to have a couple concluding things, and then we'll end in a really good time. One is there were a few questions that were submitted over the last week or so that were really specific in nature, and a member of the team will get back to you on that question. And the second thing is, some of you know me, I was a middle and high school teacher for many years, and a number of the things we've been addressing tonight have been focused on younger kids, and I want to assure you that from age 1 to 12, our entire team is looking at the health and wellness and academic vibrancy of everybody. Our youngest kids are more vulnerable, and so that's why we spent more time on them tonight, and we're looking at the whole child. A couple things, a shout out. We have some of our newest faculty members and staff members here. Emily Lund, if somebody could unmute her real quick, who is our new head of Montessori. She is currently, I believe, in Texas right now, tuning in from Texas, and she's so excited to get started. If everybody can give a nice wave to Emily.
Thank you.
John Wilson, if somebody could unmute him, is our new director of admissions, and he has been, he's not even on the clock yet, and he's been meeting with Barrie folks almost every day, getting excited for that. If we could give him a nice shout out. And then a few weeks ago, for those of you who know Tony Myers-Perry, our Dean of Students, and Helen Mahoney, they both received their doctoral degrees. And so a number of our faculty and staff members dressed up to a faculty Zoom meeting, covered in Band-Aids and all these things, and then said, hey, there's a doctor in the house, can we get some help? And it was just a nice thing. And so for Tony, who will be our Dean of Students again next year, I just want to give a special shout out. She can't help with COVID-19 related doctoral work, but helping our kids is a big thing. A couple other quick shout outs here as we move forward. Our PTO is going virtual when we're virtual and in person when we're not. And so be thinking about if you're interested in joining the parent-teacher organization next year, and the leaders of that will be contacting you. There's a meeting on that next week for a few of us, and that's exciting. I want to give an absolutely shameless plug. Our annual fund next year is going to focus on supporting our community, supporting our teachers, and supporting our school in a time of crisis. And so you will be hearing from me early and often about an opportunity to contribute, okay? There is potentially good news that we have a member of our community who's thinking about making a challenge grant to launch the year. Stay tuned, because that could help us buy the supplies and all the kinds of things that we need for kids. And the last thing I would say as we're looking into the summer is that our kids are resilient. Regardless of their age, this has largely been harder on us than it has been on them. And I ask us to give them love and care and a time to rest and special time with our family. And just to give them credit, for being able to move forward from this and learn the best from it. We have amazing kids, and this is what we're here for. And I want to thank all of you for remaining in this community and finding solace from this community, because I feel this ultimately can be our finest hour together. Thank you for tuning in tonight.